Okay, so there is a massive global story unfolding right now between the US and Venezuela, and it's all about military action, a captured president, and you guessed it, oil. So let's dive in and break down what is actually going on. Things kicked off with this absolute bombshell event, a US military operation right in the middle of Caracas, the Venezuelan capital, which ended with the capture of President Nicolás Maduro. And just like that, he was taken to the United States.
Right. So a move this dramatic immediately brings up the single biggest question we have to answer. Why did this happen, and why did it happen now?
To really get to the why, we first need a crystal clear picture of the immediate aftermath. We're talking about a brand new government, a leader in custody, and a sudden, all-out struggle for control of the country's most valuable asset.
So the immediate fallout really boils down to three huge things. First, President Maduro is now in the US and he's facing some very serious charges: drug and arms trafficking. Second, back in Venezuela, his vice president, Delcy Rodríguez, was immediately declared the interim president. And third, and this is a game changer, the US has now taken indefinite control over all of Venezuela's oil exports.
So that brings us right to the heart of it all, the motivation. Why would the US do something so drastic? Well, it turns out there are two completely different stories being told. The official line from the US government is that this whole operation was about dismantling what they're calling a narco-terrorist network. The stated goal was to bring stability and democracy to Venezuela. And this is where you really see the two sides clash. The US says its operation is targeting something called the Cartel of the Suns. That's a term for alleged trafficking networks inside the Venezuelan military, and the whole point is to create a safer, more democratic country. But Venezuela fires right back, saying those motives are totally false. They claim the real goal is much simpler: energy greed and a desire to control their oil. Now, to really understand the weight of that energy greed accusation, you only need to know one thing. Venezuela sits on the world's single largest proven oil reserves. Number one, more than any other country on the entire planet. So how did this whole thing go over? Let's take a look at the response, both inside Venezuela, which is now a nation in total crisis, and from a global community that is, well, deeply divided on this. Venezuela's new interim president, Delcy Rodríguez, she did not mince words. Her official response directly attacks the US story, saying flat out that the American claims are false and that this was always about one thing: oil.
And you got to think about the people in Venezuela, right? For them, the domestic impact is immediate and it is severe. Their entire economy runs on oil money. That's what funds everything. With their exports now under foreign control, the whole country has been thrown into just profound economic uncertainty.
And the global reaction? It is all over the map. A lot of countries and legal experts are openly questioning if this was even legal, since there was no UN mandate. Neighboring Latin American countries are, understandably, very concerned about a foreign military coming into the region. Russia is protesting loudly, especially after one of its tankers was seized. Meanwhile, China is playing it much more cautiously, just calling for a diplomatic solution. Okay, so what happens next? That is the million-dollar question. The situation now is just defined by these huge, unanswered questions about the law, about politics, and about Venezuela's very survival. Yeah, the future's looking incredibly murky on three key fronts. First, legally, this whole thing is under fire not just around the world, but also inside the US, where some lawmakers want to limit the president's power to do things like this. Politically, Venezuela is just stuck in limbo. There's no clear timeline for new elections, and economically, even if US companies come back, rebuilding the country's oil infrastructure is going to take years and billions of dollars. So let's just quickly put all the pieces together. In Venezuela, you've got an interim government now that the US has imposed Maduro. US relations have completely shifted to direct military intervention and oil control. The official American story is that this is about fighting narco-terrorism, but the main criticism is that it's a resource grab. On the international stage, the response is mixed, to say the least, and that leaves the future looking completely uncertain. And that leaves us with the ultimate question hanging over this entire crisis. Is this the beginning of a real path to stability for Venezuela? Or has this action just kicked off a dangerous, brand new era of conflict? The truth is, right now, no one knows for sure.